In a world dominated by men, the achievements, accomplishments, and selfless service of women at times can be forgotten or only quietly spoken about. In this video, we will talk about 5 women who were not only the spouses of extremely prominent men in the fight and pursuit of justice for our people, but were also fierce and powerful fighters in their own right for our people. Let's take time to learn about and celebrate these fierce, courageous, and bold women, and remember that they are more than just a half and that they are indeed a whole powerhouse by themselves. Amy Ashwood Garvey. Amy Ashwood Garvey was Marcus Garvey's first wife. In 1914, a young Jamaican organizer named Amy Ashwood stood beside Marcus Garvey as they co-founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association. She wasn't a background figure, she was a builder. In the movement's earliest years, from 1914 to 1922, Amy Ashwood shaped the UNIA's structure, raised funds, organized meetings, and created the women's auxiliaries that carried Garveyism into communities across the Caribbean, the United States, and beyond. Her marriage to Garvey ended, but her commitment never wavered. She went on to become a global Pan-African voice, speaking in London, Harlem, and West Africa, always reminding the world that Black liberation required the leadership of Black women. Amy Jacques Garvey. In 1922, Amy Jacques Garvey, the second wife of Garvey, stepped into a role that would define the future of Garveyism. When Marcus Garvey was imprisoned in 1923, she became the movement's public engine editing the Negro World, publishing Garvey's writings, and keeping the UNIA alive when its founder could not speak freely. In 1924, she issued her groundbreaking editorial, Women as Leaders, calling on Black women to claim political authority and reshape the destiny of the race. Through the 1920s and 1930s, Amy Jacques Garvey preserved Garvey's legacy, managed his manuscripts, and ensured that the philosophy of African redemption survived exile, imprisonment, and political attack. Her voice was steady, strategic, and indispensable. Ida Gibbs Hunt. Ida Gibbs Hunt was the wife of William Henry Hunt. Ida Gibbs Hunt was an advocate of racial and gender equality and co-founded one of the first YWCAs in Washington, D.C. for African Americans in 1905. In 1919, as world powers gathered in Paris after World War I, Ida Gibbs Hunt stepped further into history. More than just a diplomat's wife, with her own fierce political mind, she helped organize the first Pan-African Congress alongside W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the earliest international meetings demanding African independence and global Black rights. Throughout the 1920s, Ida Gibbs Hunt wrote, lectured, and advocated for racial justice, women's rights, and international cooperation. She moved through diplomatic circles with precision, using her access to challenge colonialism and uplift African and African-descended people worldwide. Her work was quiet, strategic, and global, an essential thread in the early fabric of Pan-Africanism. Nina Gomer Du Bois. Nina Gomer Du Bois, first wife of W.E.B. Du Bois. In 1896, they married, and Nina Gomer Du Bois became a quiet but powerful force behind one of the greatest intellectual careers of the 20th century. Through the early 1900s, Nina held the household, the finances, and the emotional stability that allowed Du Bois to produce the souls of Black folk, lead the Niagara movement, and shape the NAACP. When Du Bois issued his famous call to the Negro woman in The Crisis, urging Black women to rise as moral and political leaders, Nina embodied that call every day through labor that was rarely public but absolutely foundational. Her contribution was not in speeches, but in the structure that made those speeches possible. Shirley Graham Du Bois. Shirley Graham Du Bois was the second wife of W.E.B. Du Bois. In 1946, Shirley Graham, already an award-winning playwright, composer, and biographer, married Du Bois and stepped into the final global phase of his political life. She was not a supporter, she was a partner in struggle. By the 1940s, Shirley Graham Du Bois had already proven herself as a force in black political organizing. She was a leader of the Collective Sojourners for Truth and Justice, and in 1941, she helped found the Sojourner Truth Housing Project in Detroit, a landmark effort to secure safe, dignified housing for black families during a period of violent segregation and federal resistance. Her leadership in that battle showed her commitment to community defense long before she became a global figure. By the 1950s, Shirley Graham Du Bois had become one of the most influential black women in international politics. She wrote the definitive biography, Paul Robeson, Citizen of the World, in 1946, produced operas, and published novels that centered black history and liberation. In 1961, she and her husband moved to Ghana, where they worked with Kwame Nkrumah on Pan-African unity and African independence. After her husband's death in 1963, she continued the work, writing, organizing, and speaking across Africa and Asia. Shirley Graham Du Bois was a cultural architect, a political strategist, and a global freedom worker whose voice carried the Pan-African movement into a new era. These women helped shape the history of the black movement and should be an inspiration to all women currently involved in that same movement. These women proved that not only could they be wives, that was not their only path in life. Yes, they supported their husbands, but their tenacity and willing to fight did not stop there. Was there anyone new that you never heard of? I invite you to learn about more women in the movement and more about our phenomenal inspirational past of fighting together.